welcome to the Swift Half, your weekly session of chat from the UK OCR and adventure running scene. Each week, pub landlord Alan and our favourite regular Ian discuss races, runners and anything else that comes to mind. So pull up a pew, pour yourself a drink and join us for the Swift Half.
Ian, my friend, welcome to a Swift Half that's different.
It is indeed, Alan. It only seems like yesterday since I was talking to you.
It's 2 days ago since you were talking to me. Shall we give our listeners a little bit of insight to what happened?
Yeah, let's do, because I realised we didn't actually put anything up on any socials. The only place people had any real idea was in the pub.
No, I put it up on UKOCR Facebook page just saying no Swift Half coming later this week.
Okay, that's good. Obviously, algorithms are working overtime to get me that vital piece of news.
Exactly. So we recorded the Swift Half as we do normally. You came, joined the Swift Half. We had a few beers. We talked about everything. It all downloaded perfect. I got up in the morning to turn my computer on to edit it and publish it that morning at 6 a.m. And Microsoft, in their infinite wisdom, has decided to give us an update on his computer, Ian. So not a big deal. It's happened quite a lot of times. But this time it did something different. It asked for a bit locker. Don't ask me what a bit locker is. I thought it was something like, drill bits. You keep them in a locker. That's a bit locker to me. Googled it, searched for it, spoke to a couple of our friends. Big thanks to Mike Mussard for helping me out. Found out that there isn't really no way around it. You've got to speak to Microsoft. Microsoft have got to do it all. Spoke to Microsoft, and apparently, because I'd had my computer for 4.5 years, when I set it up, I should have had a 40-digit code on my computer. I probably did, Ian. I'm not going to say I didn't. And that's my BitLocker code. And that 40-digit of just pure numbers, just 40 random numbers between 0 and 9, I can't remember it.
See, what I don't understand is how this just happened overnight, because we use BitLocker at work, but you have to turn it on. So how did Microsoft just randomly decide to turn on your BitLocker code?
It's because it's an update. It's a Windows 11 update, all Windows 11. If you go from Windows 10 to 11 and apparently if your Windows 10 is over so many years old, then it automatically activates BitLocker.
Well, that's a danger to everyone then. I think we should all have a look and check that we've got our BitLocker key. And this brings up a fantastic competition that we're running, Alan.
To our patrons, or to another competition we're going to run.
This competition, listener, is if you can guess the 40-digit BitLocker code that is currently holding last week's Swift Half ransom, you can get the first listen of last week's Swift Half.
Definitely. Ian, it's been a proper pain. The computer, it's a Surface Pro. It's 4 years old. Were I ready for a new one? Maybe not. I'm not sure. But it's completely gone now. It can't be unlocked. Nothing can happen to it. I can't even get into it in any way, shape, or form. So it's gone. Everything's gone. So I'm having to download all new stuff. I've had to purchase a new laptop. And I found out where my BitLocker is on this. So there is a way of finding out, people. If you have got a computer, I would suggest you go and find out what your BitLocker key is. You can do it. It's quite easy to do it. You go on to, it's somewhere in your settings, but it's called a BEC file, and it's quite easy to find. You can find it, copy it, write it down, keep it on a Post-it note somewhere. Remember never to throw it away, because in 4 years' time, you might need it.
Can I just confirm who's actually to blame for all of this?
Who's to blame for all of this here? Go on, tell me.
Gareth Southgate. Because if England had lost to Slovakia, then you wouldn't have been watching the England game on Wednesday, and you would have been editing the Swift Half, and it would already be up. That's
exactly England. I've spoiled all our listeners. Good thinking, Ian. I like that. Listeners, Gareth Southgate's a bad person. But tonight, it happens tonight, Fingers crossed, Ian. We have got our fingers crossed that England can do well and get Southgate can get us over the line this time. Second attempt.
You know what's hilarious about this whole situation?
Well, I'm glad you find something hilarious because I haven't found anything of it.
The fact that when we were recording Swift Half, and listen, I'm sorry, it's gone. If we ever find it, we'll publish it on Patreon, but it's gone. But throughout the Swift Half listener, Alan was trying to be very clever and nod and a wink because we recorded it before the England game. And Alan was talking about, however the lads get on, they would have done us proud, thinking there was a third and fourth place game in the Euros. And thus, the joke would be fine no matter what. And we would have time shifted and everything would have been great. After we finished recording, I mentioned to Alan that there wasn't any third or fourth place game. So Alan was watching the England game on Wednesday, even more nervous than usual, knowing that he had to do a little bit of ninja editing if England didn't do the job. So kind of thank you, Gareth Southgate, for doing the job and stopping Alan from having to do editing, which in the end he didn't do anyway.
Yeah, thanks, Gav. So we're going to try and make this a swift half. So we know it's a lunchtime, Ian, because we're here and it's lunchtime. The Swift half's open at lunchtime. So I'm going to presume that you're drinking soft drink. I'm drinking a cup of tea today. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Applied Nutrition Body Fuel Love Hearts version. And look at this bottle. Is this just trying to be prime without trying to be prime?
Oh, that is trying to be prime without trying to be prime. I love it how it's got the love hearts. See, they're the sweets, aren't they, on it? The picture of the little sweeties.
They are, although unlike having the sweets, you can't really give this to someone you fancy back in the day. Did you used to use love hearts back in the day to flirt with girls, or did we not have love hearts in Yorkshire?
In Yorkshire, we had pieces of coal, mate. No love hearts, they're pieces of coal. You engraved a piece of coal.
Worrying is if you got one straight out of the mine shaft that had been engraved, I guess. Please help. Canary's dead.
Oh, yeah. Right. When we recorded last time, we went through all the patrons. We said it was a Patreon shout out as well. So we're going to do exactly the same again because we have got a Patreon competition running. So anyone who's a Patreon, if you are a Patreon before the 1st of August, and for every £2 part of patrons, you'll get one entry into the raffle for a book called The 100 Greatest Running Adventures, which is a new release that comes out on the 18th of this month. So we'll have it before the 1st and we can ship it out to anyone. And even if our listeners abroad win it, we are still going to post it out to them. So listen, so far our patrons are Wesley, Wayne King, Dawn Jollies, Sarah Solomon, Nikki Firefly, Daryl White, Chris Shipley, Darren Martin, Susan Jarman, John Redman, Dassos Ganella, Katie Joyce, Dawn, I think that's Dawn Pickles, Emily Young, Louis Stevens, Kelly Spalding, Craig Redmond, B. Wood, Encarnio Casalas Arande, James Burton, Laura Haywood, Tim Crangle, Steve Mesham, John Poole, Miles Lacey, Mike Nolan, Kevin Dent, Wendy Brothers, Brian Keys, Ben Griffin, Daniel Weston, Charlotte Malone, Gordon Cameron, Richard Willis, Paul Ellis, Martin Gemmell, Matthew Kark, Sophia Harnaday, Michelle Carney, and our longest serving Patreon, Will Chung. Oof, I'm out of breath.
Well, thank you all Patreons. And is this the point of the show where I say Will is only the longest serving because he snuck in while we were still testing it and signed up?
Yeah, we did. We asked him to test it, and next thing we know, he joined. Thanks for that, Will. Much appreciated.
It is. Thank you to new Patreons. Thank you all for some of you having hard to pronounce names because it never fails to amuse me watching Alan tongue twist over some names. And one day he'll ask me to read out the list and it will be a very, very bad thing and we'll probably lose about half of you. So let's hope that day never comes.
Too right. But talking about patrons, B doing Tough Mudder Infinity last week. We had another patron that won it, Kevin Dent. But B, first adaptive athlete to do Infinity that I'm aware of. 2 laps, I believe she did.
I believe she did 2 laps. So can we take a step back and just talk a little bit about competition again, Alan?
Oh, God,
Because I
sorry, yeah.
think we went over it rather swiftly. I know this will be a swift half, but we went over it rather swiftly. Do you want to explain the competition rules? How did you get entry?
So to get entry to win a copy of the book, you have just basically got to join up our Patreon. Join a Patreon, or you can send us a beer if you want. It's going to be minimum £2. Send us a beer. For every £2 part of Patreon. So if you're £2 patron a month, then you'll get 1 entry into the raffle. £4 patron, 2 entries. £6 patron, 3 entries. If you send us a beer, whatever beer you send us, £2 you get 1 entry. £4 you'll get 2 entries. £6 you'll get 3 entries. And on the 1st of August, I want to say 1st of August, it's going to be roundabout then I will do it. We're going to do a live draw. All the names will go onto a spinning wheel. I've seen one of these apps on a spinning wheel that you can get on social media. And we're going to do it all on social media on a spinning wheel, and one person will win that book. 100 greatest running adventures in the UK. So I bought 2 books in. It's a new release. I bought 2 books. I bought one for me because I want a copy. Yeah. And I bought one for our patrons. And I got this on the back of, I bought myself another book based around the Barclays Marathon. I don't know if I mentioned it a couple of months ago on there, but I joined Kickstarter, and there's a book about the Barclays Marathons that's coming out, just picture format book. And I bought that, like a coffee table book. And I thought I'd buy that. And then on the back, they've sent me this one as well. So I bought 2 of these.
I've always wondered about coffee table books.
Go on. What have you wondered about them?
Well, what happens when you buy another one? Do you have to retire the first one, or do you end up with a coffee table full of books?
Even the coffee table books, I don't actually leave mine out on a coffee table. I've got to be straight up. I don't leave mine out on a coffee table. Mine are they're all in my conservatory on a shelf. So, but they're there for people want to read and stuff like that. And no guest would ever come round to your house, would they? And like actually get a book up and read it when they come round to see you, though. I don't think I've never had a guest that's ever done that.
I wonder if it did before phones. You know that awkward moment when you used to go to someone's house, they've just invited you, and you're just sat there. The TV wasn't on because it's rude to have the TV on when you've got guests round. And then suddenly you get a phone call, and you have to go and take it because it'll be on a recorded phone, either in the other room or on the wall. And I wonder in those moments whether they pick up the coffee table book to thumb through.
Oh, no, you're probably right there. Or they won't make a cup of tea and you're sat in there in the living room while they're getting the cup of tea ready. You pick up the book to read it. Now you get your phone out and have a look, don't you?
Yeah, maybe there could be like an app out there. Perhaps there already is, like coffee table book, where you can just pull it up on your phone and it will just randomly show you, I don't know, pictures of Yorkshire or pictures of things in the zoo. Actually, Alan, we're going off a tangent, and this won't be a swift half. But anyway, we're going off on a tangent. As you know, Alan, I live not too far away from the Roman Road that is up in Littleborough.
Yeah.
Something I remember is we always used to go up there. It's a bit of a drive, but we always used to go up there with my dad back in the day, do a little bit of walking before phones again. So it was get out the house and do something. And one day we saw someone taking pictures of the Roman Road. Happens a lot.
Yeah.
But this guy was different because his camera gear was all professional. You know how you can tell that someone's professional, other than the fact that they'll put a watermark on it and charge you 25 quid for it.
Yeah.
But you know how you can tell, or more, you can tell someone's professional because they do that kind of thing. And my dad just approached him and said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm taking pictures for a coffee table book."
Right. Oh, cool.
And we asked, what is this coffee table book?
And what was it?
It was Sights of Yorkshire, which, given Yorkshire didn't start for another 3 miles, was rather confusing. And making the photographer aware of this, he turned around and said, no, anyway.
That's like... Oh, that's a cracker. That's a cracker. Are you do you ever look at some of the reels that come up on social media, especially Facebook nowadays? And you're talking about coffee table books, and you'd like get sights of Yorkshire. There's a lot of things coming up now with walks of certain parts of England, like the Lake District and secret places. I'm seeing a lot of that on social media at the minute, which is like, getting people to see England and Scotland and Wales and places that you wouldn't normally go to. And I've said this for the last 10, 12 years that there's so many beautiful places in the UK, and it looks like the influencers are now trying to do that as well.
Which is probably a bad thing because we won't be able to move soon for people with gimbals and that. Thinking about it, Alan, no, we never discuss this on air, so I will. We often discuss how horrible Yorkshire and Lancashire are. It's just fire pits and dragons and stuff everywhere. Influencers don't come. Do not come. You don't want to be eaten by a dragon or be clubbed to death by an ogre who lives in their hills. So yeah, do you reckon that'll sort the problem out?
Coal dust in the throat all the time. It's bleak. It's miserable. It rains all the time up here, Ian.
It does, and you've got plagues of canaries that have exited the coal mines, which will just peck your eyes out. So no influencers need to come to Lancashire or Yorkshire.
No, straight through. Go up to Lake District or something like that, or down to Cornwall. We're not so European.
So, do you reckon we sorted the issue out?
I think we've sorted that issue out.
Perfect. Absolutely. And talking about overcoming things, you mentioned about B, how she was the first ever person who was an adaptive athlete in a wheelchair to do Infinity.
2 laps here, and she got one of those new headbands, the yellow ones that we talked about on the other Swift half when she popped in for a lock-in. Amazing, well done to her. I'm seeing lots of pictures on her social media about it. It looked like fun. She had a big team, massive team. Quite a lot of our patrons on that team as well.
There was, in fact, amongst others, we had Michelle Carney and Martin Gemmell, and he's not a Patreon, but we also had Keith as well, who's a long-time Tough Mudder ambassador.
Yeah. I think Laura, the mermaid, was on the team as well. I don't know them all, but I mean, well done to them all getting around twice. Well done to B for doing it twice. What an amazing effort. Anyone who can get around 2 laps of Infinity, to me, does well. So yeah, great effort.
Yeah, on that, B, can you send us a quick note to let us know who was on your team for Infinity? And I think you did Tough Mudder Manchester this weekend, so let us know who was in your team for that event as well, and we'll give a shout out, because obviously it's an amazing achievement for B. Some of their obstacles are just hard to do able-bodied, let alone when you're an adaptive athlete. But behind every great adaptive athlete in a wheelchair, there's a whole team. So it would be nice to give them a quick shout out. In the same way that had we been going, Alan, we would have been giving shout out to No Fear on Wheels. Do you remember them?
Oh yeah, they were. What was the name? I know Gavin Levitt had something to do with it. I can't remember the guy who was in the wheelchair though.
Me neither. And again, listener, let us know, because I brought it up, and as you can see, we've done lots of research for this unexpected Swift half, which is actually nothing like the original Swift half. Alan, do you remember that? What's it called? That song by Tenacious D.
Oh, go on. He made a lot of songs, and I don't remember any of them. He's not my first on my playlist.
Well, the song was called Tribute,
right?
And it was a tribute to the greatest song in the world. Well, what we recorded last week was the greatest Swift half in the world, and this isn't that Swift half. This is just a tribute.
Cracking idea. I like that. Quick one, while we're talking about adaptive athletes here, I promised a couple of podcasts away that we'd have a new podcast coming out, especially for adaptive athletes. The first episode goes out this Thursday of Never Stumped on our listing. So this Thursday, unless you're a patron, and you're going to get it very, very quickly, but it's literally just dropped into my inbox as we're recording this, Ian. So yeah, Never Stumped coming out Thursday.
Roger, on a new laptop, you're going to have a lot of editing day. It's a good job that John Steventon had agreed to do this week's UK HXR, isn't it?
It certainly is. Big thanks to John on that as well. Much appreciated. Talking about HXR, and fitness racing. What's happening in that world?
Right, okay. Last weekend we had Course 6. Course 6 is a 6-person fitness challenge type event, Alan, and I think it's something me and you should look into in the future. It's not a high rocks, it is a series of challenges over the course of the day. In a way, probably closer to a adult sports day kind of thing, although you're not getting silly exercises in there. You've got, for example, what used to be called sternum checkers,
Oh, yeah.
and you have to get your team over them and then back over the other side. They also use that massive draft excluder called the worm, where you're doing squats all together, which isn't really great. And my own personal favorite, and it's kind of become a staple, is they pulled a truck.
They pull a truck. How many to a team pulling a truck?
I think 6. I'm not sure whether the truck was turned on or whether the handbrake was off, but it looked hard, Alan.
And the truck would have to be turned on, and the clutch would be up and in first gear if I'm going to pull a truck.
So, should we look at it? I've already asked Emma Waring, our good friend of the show, to let us know when next year's is, because I missed it this year and I missed it last year, and I really want to do it. Should we, if the date works out, Alan, should we try to put together a UK OCR team to go and take it on?
Sounds fun, Ian. Sounds fun. I best check that I'm not washing my hair that day. So find me a date and no. But seriously, yeah, it sounds fun. I'll be up for something like that. Yeah, it sounds good.
Provided it doesn't interfere with you doing any kind of your running challenges, which, based on how your running challenges have escalated, I reckon you'll be at South Pole this time next year.
I'm training well, training well. Everything's happening well. 2 weeks to ETM. Looking forward to that. I'm wanting 8 laps this time. I think I got 7 last time. Wanting 8 this time as a minimum. So yeah, running well. As we're recording this, I've just come back from a steady 14 miler, just over 2 hours. So I'm running well. I'm not running super fast. And what I am doing is I'm losing a lot of weight though, Ian, at the minute. I've taken out, and I took this note off today, but I've cut out all man-made sugar from my diet. So Monday to Friday, no man-made sugar, and yeah, it's working. So power to weight ratio is coming back.
I always wondered, how do we make sugar? Because I always thought it was something you plant.
We probably do, but it's refined and things like that, isn't it? Whereas your natural sugar, you get it naturally in fruit. So all fruit tends to contain sugar, which is a natural sugar, which is not as, what do I say? It's easier to digest. So from my understanding, I'm a nutritionist, and if someone's a nutritionist wants to tell me I'm wrong, but a nutritionist did tell me this, that all man-made sugar, your body, it takes such a long time to digest it. And when you're doing exercise, if you're eating man-made sugar, your body tends to take all of that man-made sugar before it starts to eat the fat on your body. And that's what you don't want. You want to be, when you train and exercising, you want the fat to be eaten as quick as possible.
So things that are unrefined are good for you, a little bit like this podcast.
A little bit like this podcast, Ian, yeah. It's good for you.
No, right. Some other fitness news this past weekend was Deadly Dozen over in Macclesfield, the second event that they done. We talked about it a few weeks ago. We'll probably talk about it again on Wednesday. When we were recording the episode last week, I mentioned I might go there. In the end, I didn't end up going there because between recording and between the event, I had a ton of various projects that needed to be sorted out, so I ended up working a little bit on my Saturday. So I wasn't there, but we did have people there who are going to feed me back some info. So we'll cover it next Friday, Alan.
Sounds good to me. We'll cover it next week.
Other things that we'll cover next week is, of course, Tough Mudder Manchester, which, Alan, it has looked a lot of fun, but in the interest of not making this a long Swift half, again, should we cover it next week?
Yes, because I know you went, and I want to talk to you about it and see what it was like, and compare it a little bit to Beaver Castle when I went with Paula and Ali and see what the differences were, or if it was very, very similar.
Well, I actually didn't go. I was just fed a lot of pictures from people who were there. So sorry for giving the impression I was there. What I did do is I went and met Will and Mike after it. We found a nice little pub. So I, yeah, I achieved the most important thing, which is the post-race feed. So
The after
I did
party,
that.
yes.
I did. Can we talk about Tough Mudder Midlands and you, Paula and Harley, and how it got on? Because I believe that you worried Tough Mudder officials.
Yes, we did. So we was out in, I want to say about the 9:30 wave. It wasn't the first wave. It was, 5 or 6 waves in. Paula had been carrying an injury all week. So although we'd signed up for the 10 miler, we decided that we weren't going to do the 10 miler. Paula wouldn't have got round it. She was really struggling with the knee. So we decided to do 5 miles and have a bit of fun, which it was great. But when you cut off, so when you go to Beaver Castle, people who know Beaver Castle, you go to Beaver Castle, you go over the bail bonds, and then you turn left and you go through a bit of woods, and then you come out of the woods. But before you come out of the woods, there were two turn-ins. There was left for the 5 miles, or there was right for the 10 miles. Now the 10 milers, they went and ran an extra 4 or 5 miles up in these woods before they came back and joined the 5 mile course, which we instantly joined as we came out of the woods. So we came out in first place here. We was leading the whole field, and I wanted to do Funky Monkey, and Funky Monkey wasn't on the 10 mile course; it was on the 5 mile course. So I happened to just run back, just over to Funky Monkey because I wanted to go at it, as you do. And I said, "Look, I've signed up for a 10 miler. Do you mind if I do it?" Ali wanted to do it as well. And they went, "No, you're fine." And the Tough Mudder Marshal, the Tough Mudder what do they call them? In charge, one of the guys in charge who goes around in the buggies, the officials, turned around and said, "Which course are you running? Because have you this fast? You've done the 10 miler already." And we went, "No, we're only doing 5 miler but we bought 10 mile tickets." Oh, he says, "Thank God for that." He says, "We were worried that we'd missed you all."
I wonder whether they've been tracking you in the buggies over the radio.
I think they probably had, Ian, and we weren't leading it. But one thing we did do, we got to Block Ness Monster before anyone else. But there was the leader of the 10 miler literally 200 meters behind us. So we waited till he got to us so we could help him over Block Ness. There was only 3 of us. Paul has never done it before. And I expected him to then help us. No, he didn't. We helped him get over him. And then he just shut off and just left us, which wasn't very Tough Mudder orientated, I'm going to say. So I was a little bit gutted that happened.
Yeah, people need to realize it's not a race. I bet you he instantly updated his Instagram after he'd finished saying Tough Mudder Midlands winner.
Exactly. And he got, I'm sure his mother got him a medal.
I'm sure his mother got him a medal to go alongside the medal that Tough Mudder give out now. That joke no longer works as good anymore, does it? Because you actually do get a medal. Those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, the BBC, I want to say 2017, did a bit of a documentary about Tough Mudder, and it included this interesting chap who lived with his mum who wanted to win the race. And throughout the documentary, the narrator kept telling us how Tough Mudder is not a race. And yes, this guy is kind of balmy and that. But it was a really good documentary, but I can't seem to find it anywhere. So if any Patreons or anyone knows where it is, let us know, because it would be great to watch it again.
Definitely. I've just realised we got a medal. I'd not even looked at the medal. It's actually quite good, Ian. It's quite big. Tough Mudder logo on one side. On the other side, it's got the skull that you had at Holy Grail. It's got a little bit of that skull on, and it just says, "I help my fellow mudders complete the course. I overcome all fears." So I hope he didn't get one because he didn't help his fellow mudders.
He didn't, but which version of the skull is it? Because there's 3 versions this year, as you remember. You've got your Cage Crawl, Arctic Enema, and I want to say Electroshock Therapy, but I could be wrong.
Cage Crawl. This is Cage Crawl. So
Cage Crawl, because I think Arctic Enema was in Manchester this past weekend.
All right, that's cool. That's good that you get them different ones. I like it, Ian. It's a good medal. It's quite good. Quite good. Like it.
And I'm sure Paula enjoyed getting a medal. I feel sorry for Paula. She didn't live through the medalless days.
No, she didn't. She did really well, and I've got to give. She's had some proper bruises though this week. She got some proper OCR kisses. Like took me back to when I first did mine. You get bruised because your body's not used to getting knocked over walls and the sandpaper legs. The inside of your legs that look like sandpaper. All down one leg, she's had that sandpaper bruise, and but yeah, she did really really well. I was quite pleased. She got all the way around it. I think 5 miles took us about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes in total, which wasn't bad. We ran, we walked, we had fun, we did all the obstacles, even electroshock at the end. I went through electroshock, albeit down the left-hand side because the wind was blowing left to right, so I didn't get shocked. But yeah, did them all. It was really, really good.
Thinking back, I probably should do Heaton Park next year because I think we've talked about this on the show before. I love electroshock therapy as an obstacle. I hate the idea of taking a headshot and landing in the mud because I like to finish clean. But in electroshock in Manchester, they can't put mud down because they can't make Heaton Park even worse than it already is.
Yeah, that's why you need to do Eaton Park.
I absolutely do. I need to look into making sure I can do it next year and actually not forget that it was happening like I kind of did this year. I think it's because we've had so many Tough Mudders in a row. I just blatantly forgot that this one was in between Midlands and ETM. Alan, you sounded like you had a lot of fun on Tough Mudder Midlands. But there have been some grumbles and discourse on the online community because, well, firstly, Alan, can you believe this? People on the internet complaining about things.
Well, that's new. You don't see that very often at all, do you?
No, exactly. Which is why we should take them seriously because you never see people complaining on the internet. But these particular people were saying that they felt like all the obstacles were just in one specific area. They didn't think the village was as fun as previously, and it felt like a lot of running. What say you?
I can get that on the 10 miler because as I said, we did the 5 mile. Okay, the 10 miler only had 4 or 5 more obstacles on it than we did, and so I can understand that for extra 5 miles and you're only getting 4 obstacles, they would have thought there's a lot of running in it. I thought the 5 miler were perfect. I'm going to say the 5 mile I thought were perfect. I don't know why they took out Funky Monkey on the 5 mile because they could have happily left it in. And I think you get probably more people doing the 5 mile if they'd got a few more obstacles in. I think the water feature, when you go through the water in the bog, they've taken that out and they just put you through a little bit of mud, which was a bit different. So it did feel like running. I liked it, and I'm going to admit, for the 5 mile, I thought it was perfect. I do get why the 10 miler are saying that it felt like running. They got 4 more obstacles in 10 mile. And I do believe that first section when we came out of the woods and we turned left and 10 miles went right, there was literally a mile and a half of no obstacles. But yeah, you're going to get you some running. It's 10 miles. They're going to get running, aren't they? But should obstacles be also central? Yes, because that means that if you're taking people with you to spectate, they can take pictures of you, Ian, while you're doing a lot of the obstacles, which what that means is you don't have to pay the £30 to get all your pictures at the end of the day.
Right, exactly, Alan. That is such a good point. And I've always been a fan of like the cloverleaf version of events where all the obstacles are in a clustered area and then you're being sent out in different directions for the run. You kind of do this when it comes to the race that shan't be mentioned, in that a lot of your obstacles are around the central village. I know you do have some further on, but you do tend to use this kind of cloverleaf style, don't you?
Very much so. I want spectators to be very much part of the event as the runners. There's nothing worse than, and I remember this from when I won Wolf Run, is that literally you run out and you don't see them when you come back. And if you're back before the people are expecting you, they don't see you when you come back. So I like the fact that people know where you are on the course, how far you're going. So yeah, similar to a cloverleaf, we run around the field and then we come back and so forth and so forth. And we do tend to put 5 or 6 obstacles in the last 100 meters. So purely because we just want the spectators to enjoy it. It's just as much for them. There's nothing worse than spectators sat around doing nothing.
Oh, and having obstacles right at the end also leaves you with that experience of the obstacles. No one wants a mile run after they've done the last obstacle.
No. I do get what they're saying, though, about the event village, Ian. It did feel funny. And it felt funny because it felt like it were in 2 parts. So when you walked in through the main gate, the arch that says this is where you go in, the registration thing. The start line was on the right, like it usually is, and the bag drug was straight in front of you, and so forth to get into the wash area. However, there was like if you went left and you went through like a bit of a narrower area, then it opened up to the event village. I don't know, it just felt a little bit funny. It was in like I can't explain it, like a figure of eight, if you like, rather than just one big area.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. I know they've done something similar where you kind of like went through the gift shop. And I think once they've had it, but you have to go under. I always want to call it Giant Wedgie because that was its first name, but Mudderhorn. They've had it where spectators would go through that to get to the other part of the village. So yeah, I can see that. If it's not all in one area, it can definitely feel a bit strange. What about obstacles? Because a criticism of Tough Mudder this year has been that they may be cut back, because the argument always was with Tough Mudder compared to local races back in the day when we had hundreds of races was, okay, you're only getting 25 obstacles, but these 25 obstacles are massive and cost a lot more than the 100 obstacles that you'll be doing at another event, of which 10 of the obstacles was carrying a ret bag.
They were all there. All the obstacles were there. One thing I did think that Everest was a little bit smaller than normal. So I ran up the one where you've got to leap and jump for the lip. Now I'm going to guess this is exactly where Spartan were last week. So, and the British champs were there last week. So I'm wondering if it was made a little bit smaller for Spartan, because it's very, very easy to run, leap, and get over that ledge. Where in the past, I found it quite hard to get to the big one where you've got to leap and you've got to get that extra half a meter to a meter over the top to grab hold of it. I went up quite easily. Harley went up it quite easily as well. So I think that was easier. I also think Mudderhorn felt smaller. I don't know if it was, but it just felt smaller or looked smaller. I don't know. Everything was there. The obstacles were there. Probably some of them weren't as big. Everest definitely wasn't as wide as what you normally get. I've seen wider ones at a lot of places, and it didn't feel as tall either. But everything else, yeah, I can't say there was nothing else that I would have thought was smaller or different. It just, those two were the only ones for me that looked different.
So perhaps we've made it so that you could do it on your own. Whereas the big thing about Everest has always been you need your team of people at the top. But if you're also doubling it up with Spartan, you can't really do it that way. So you had to have it so it was attainable. No, I can see that. I do wonder, Alan, whether Tough Mudder should start like sprinkling hay bales or something in some of the running section. So not actually obstacles, although watch Tough Mudder now name them all and claim to have 40 obstacles on a map, but like some hay bales or something to just impede where you're going, and stuff that doesn't need to be manned per se. Or of course, if injuries are likely to happen, you should have someone at least near there.
I think in that first running section, if it was as long as what I've been told it was and what it looked like on the map, I think that would have been a great idea. Didn't they used to do it years ago? Randomly just put an hay bale somewhere. I'm sure I've done Tough Mudders before when I first started doing them, that you'd literally be running along and then just be... My first one was Yorkshire, and I'm sure that there were just random hay bales in certain places that you had to climb over.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's almost like they just dumped them there, like perhaps we had too many, so we just dumped them there as bonus obstacles.
Yeah. No, you're right. They should. They need to do something and liven it all up and that in. But yeah, I agree with you.
So, Alan, moving away from Tough Mudder, some British obstacle news. We may have covered this previously, but just in case, there's some lifetime members.
Yeah, Joe Dulson Cox and Dean Cheetham have been given British Obstacle Sports lifetime members. This happened at the recent annual AGM. Couldn't remember the words there. Annual AGM. Annual general meeting into annual AGM. Didn't make sense that in, but yeah, it's happened there.
It did, and yeah, if you're Microsoft Word now, this is why your Microsoft locked you out, because you sent it crazy with various things like duplicated words. Everyone knows Microsoft hates duplicated words like annual general meeting. So they deleted you, Alan. It wasn't BitLocker, they deleted you.
They just wanted to get rid of me, didn't they? They weren't bothered about it. Just get rid of me completely.
Yeah, you were harming your computer too much, is what we'll say. So, well done to those people. While we're talking about British obstacles sports, I'm gonna give a shout out to Will and Mike. I mentioned I took part in the post-race feed with them as we're recording as this is released yesterday evening. And they mentioned that they are both part of the True Cost membership. Have you heard about this?
Oh no, what's the True Cost membership? What's that?
This is whereby you pay a little bit extra. So rather than your usual British Obstacle sports membership of, I want to say £12.50 or 15 quid, however much it is, I find out once a year when someone messages me to tell me my membership's up. But whatever it is, rather than paying that, you pay extra. I think Will might have mentioned it was £60, but don't quote me on that. And the idea is to actually cover the true cost of the federation, so that if everyone was to do this, then it would start to get to a state where not everyone would have to be a volunteer.
Ooh, I've never even seen that. I've not even known about that. That's interesting.
I think it's been released recently. I think it's in one of those emails I probably haven't read. Sorry, James. It happens. I get sent a lot of emails. But listener, if you're already a member of Patreon, then definitely look into this because it's a great way to support the good work of British obstacle sports. And if you're not a member of Patreon, join Patreon, get your raffle ticket for the book, and then look into this and support British obstacle sports.
Definitely. I like that. Hybrid Festival coming up, 1st of September. This is a new thing for us.
It is. It's something that we're on the peripheral of it, aren't we? We're helping out. It's the brainchild of Fabian, who runs Cycamps over in Cyprus. He has been with High Rocks and fitness racing before we even knew it existed in the UK. So I don't know if he did the first ever High Rocks, but he was definitely there at the early days. He can remember when the wall balls were just on sticks, that kind of thing. And what he wanted to do was he wanted to do a kind of conference for people in the hybrid fitness world. For the first year, rather than hire out a massive hall and get people there, he's going to be doing it online. So some well-known faces in hybrid fitness are recording as we speak webinars to help you out in various things. So like nutrition, how to train on ergs, that kind of thing. And on the 1st of September, they're going to be released, not all together. It will be almost like a virtual summit there and there. So you can sit down and watch along with a cup of coffee or a nice beer. I'm not sure whether or not they'll be released after the event. So make sure, if you've nothing to do on 1st September, go over to Hybrid Fitness Summit, I want to say .com or something similar, sign up and make sure you are there. It reminds me, Alan, it's making me nostalgic for the UK OCR Awards, because if you remember, the first time we did them as a virtual event, as a proof of concept.
We did. I remember that quite clearly in the pub, which was actually a shed that was decorated out in the Swift Half in my garden. And how we managed to get all them people in to give them the awards, I'll never know.
I have no clue. Absolutely no clue. But peeking behind the curtain, given they were pre-recorded, the fact that none of them spilled the beans about they'd won before it was launched on YouTube, to this day, I have no idea how we pull that off.
I have no idea. I don't know how we pulled it off full stop, Ian. But we did. And now we've done 3 and we're going up to the 4th one coming up next year.
Well, we have perfected the way to do it, haven't we, Alan?
Well, I think we've perfected it as close as we possibly can. I think it's absolutely, it's great. The feedback we get is always good. Everyone who comes along enjoys it. We've got better meals now. The price, we tried to stay as close as possible as we have. Hopefully we're going to try something a bit new next year, but more to come on that as things progress, because we are already in the plans of sorting it out.
We are, and the way we've perfected it, listener, is reducing what me and Alan do as much as possible. In particular, me. The less I seem to do outside the initial stages, the better the event runs. And speaking of that, the UK OCR series, which gets done by a lot of great people, and again, I think I get involved a little bit at the start. Alan, I know you're heavily involved in the various races, but today, Rude Rampage went ahead, didn't it? So well done to everyone who took part.
Yes, more to come on that next week. We're not going to give nothing away. Who's Up will be covering it, but we'll give some results away next year. But massive well done to everyone who took part at Rude Rampage today.
And speaking of well done, should we give a shout out to the Brits who took part in the Spartan Ultra over in Morzine?
Yep, absolutely amazing. Well done to everyone who went over to Spartan Morzine last week. Some great results. Good to see Karen McQuarrie and Libby Joyce running in the elite wave over there. And I think, I'm not sure we're 10th and 11th or 9th and 10th. But yeah, great racing out there. Good to see UK athletes doing well. Big well done to them.
No, well done to everyone who took part. And say the races just keep coming. Rude Rampage has just happened. ETM is coming up soon. Is that part of the series at all? Is that part of the endurance series?
Part of the endurance series, so that's in 2 weeks' time. We've got OCR Games next week.
Oh, I forgot about OCR Games. Yeah, that's always exciting because this is kind of like a hybrid between your fitness racing and your obstacle racing.
It is. And I've heard on the grapevine that Russell Walsh and Dassos Ganella are going down there. So they're currently doing really, really well in the Endurance League. First and second at Farmyard Jam and that. And because they're going to do the OCR Games together, because they're both doing ETM. So they want to have it as a level playing field. So when they go down to ETM, because they're first and second in the Endurance League, that it's a level playing field for them. So they're both going to go and do OCR Games as well.
Oh, that's going to be interesting to watch how they get on. And OCR Games just get more and more star-studded. And speaking of star-studded, I understand that the Pesky Who's Hot team may have got us a little bonus episode about it.
Yes, coming out on, I want to say Tuesday. I do believe it's coming out Tuesday. So Monday. So this is going to be a bumper week this week here for a podcast. So Monday we have got the British Champs review. Tuesday we've got the OCR Games review. Wednesday we've got Fitness Racing podcast. And Thursday we've got Never Stumped.
And Friday, provided the laptop works, we've got another Swift Half.
Another Swift Half! 6 days of podcast back to back.
Yeah, we didn't think this through. So again, blame Gareth Southgate. It's all his fault.
Oh, his fault. Ian, I think on that note, I think we've actually run out of notes. Shall we say goodbye to everyone?
Let's say goodbye to everyone. If you are an England fan, I hope you have a wonderful time tonight, whatever happens. Because let's be honest, Alan, we're kind of in a no-lose situation. If we do lose, we'll be sad, but Spain's a good team. And if we win, we'll be very, very happy. So I love games like this for that very reason. If you're not an England fan, well, yeah, whatever. I hope you enjoy whatever you end up watching. Netflix has got some wonderful new series out. And I think if you're a subscriber to Disney, there is a new crime series out called Death and Other Details, which I can definitely recommend. Or if you're on ITVX, I think Alan Carr has done his version of Young Sheldon. I saw that the other day. So if you're not an England fan, there's plenty of options out there. And we probably won't talk about it after this episode, maybe briefly on Swift Half, but that'll be it. And on that, Alan, I'm going to say it's a goodbye from me.
And listeners, thank you for listening. Thank you for bearing with us. We do apologise for Friday, but we hope you enjoyed this episode. Keep on running, stay safe, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.